The Temporal Forces format kicks off with the European International Championships on April 5th. In lieu of Western major events to base today's rankings on, I will be using Play.LimitlessTCG.com's metashares to rank decks based on how popular they have been in online events thus far. My first of 3 honorable mentions is Roaring Moon EX. Roaring Moon EX is starting this new format out on the back foot due to popular opinion saying this archetype is no longer viable. However, we're seeing good performances from Roaring Moon EX in online events, like this first place list notably using the Dunsparce as the deck's draw engine. The Dunsparce offers draw support without leaving 2 prize liabilities on the board, but the downside is playing stage 1 Pokemon in an otherwise basic focused deck. Staying true to the all-basics build of Roaring Moon is this 9th place list with Lumineon V, Squawkabilly EX, and Mew EX like we're used to from pre-rotation lists. Regardless of the support Pokemon, these lists are including 3 to 4 of the new Roaring Moon, which provides a great single prize attacking option. I've done some testing with a list close to this second one, and it has felt like a solid aggressive archetype, but certainly not tier 1 worthy. This archetype's play rate has suffered from groupthink saying the deck was unplayable with rotation, and it's possible we see this correct itself in time. Gardevoir, much like Roaring Moon, was proclaimed dead on arrival in this new format due to all of the cards lost to rotation. It is undeniable that the Gardevoir deck has changed drastically, but that doesn't mean it's no longer good. This 3rd place deck list is roughly how I would build the deck right now, except I'd swap the Weird Ear V for Fluttermane to help against Lost Zone decks. Since this new build of Gardevoir is heavily focused on using HP boosting tools to raise Drifloon and Screamtail's damage potential, we will likely see this deck's viability wax and wane with the amount of lost vacuums being played. Control decks are rarely going to have their power level accurately represented by play rate due to the complicated and oftentimes stigmatized nature of the archetype. Pidgeot Control saw varied success in pre-rotation, including 1st place in the last Brazilian regionals of the format. Moving on to Temporal Forces format, online user All Out Blitzel has been playing a creative Pidgeot deck list to much success. This new Pidgeot list includes Wigglytuff EX, Bouffalant, and Cloth EX, all of which the average viewer might need to take a second and reread since these cards are not typically meta relevant. With Path to the Peak rotated, not only is Pidgeot EX unchecked, but so are Cloth EX and Wigglytuff EX, which have really useful abilities for this style of deck. I doubt this is the last innovation we'll see from this archetype, so it might be a good idea to consider your deck's win conditions against this sort of deck. Before we get into the top 10, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon TCG content, and check out my affiliate links and coupon codes in the description down below for ways to support the channel. Kicking off the top 10 with a brand new archetype, Ancient Box. This single prize focused deck aims to beat down the opponent with tanky basic Pokemon. The new Roaring Moon offers an attack which scales as the game goes on, and the new Charizard can come out of the gate swinging with up to 180 damage for just 2 energy. An important part about this archetype is the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, which brings both of these Pokemon up to 200 HP. Ancient Box sometimes struggles to do meaningful damage every turn of the game and falls behind at some point. Ancient Box takes favor over Lost Zone Box, the other single prize focused toolbox deck of the format, and also boasts a favored matchup against Chien Pao. Great Tusk Mill is another brand new archetype and one of the several alternate win condition decks that are showing early viability in this fresh format. This deck aims to use Ground Collapse over and over until the opponent has no cards left in their deck. With the help of Counter Catcher, Airy, and Calamitous Wasteland, you can work on trapping a weak Pokemon in your opponent's active to give you more time to mill their deck. This deck will falter against decks that are able to effectively chain knockouts without drawing too many cards. Yet another alternate win condition deck, we have Snorlax Stall at number 8. Snorlax gained Airy and Hero's Cape from Temporal Forces, which are both going to play a huge role in this deck's success. This deck focuses on trapping something in the active with Snorlax's block ability and waiting until your opponent decks out. You can speed up their decking out with Misfortune Sisters and Chi-Yu EX, but this is going to be a much slower process compared to that of Great Tusk Mill. Snorlax struggles against decks with Giratina V, since Giratina can draw cards with Abyss Seeking and Lost Zone their basic Pokemon to avoid Erika's Invitation, and Giratina also uses Shred, which one-shots a Snorlax without a tool card and goes through Mimic usability. Snorlax should also struggle against Lugia VSTAR, since Lugia plays 4 Jet Energy and can attack with everything in the deck aside from Lumineon V. Arceus Giratina is a pretty simple deck, but does big damage and has a few disruption options as well. The The consistency of Arceus VSTAR and the damage output of Giratina VSTAR are a great combo and can aggressively take advantage of slow starts from the opponent. This archetype used to rely on Path to the Peak for any hope in the Charizard matchup, but now gains Maximum Belt and Iron Leaves EX, which makes the matchup more than fair in this format. This is another archetype which has adopted Eri as a typical inclusion to discard valuable resources from opponents' hands. Lost Zone Giratina offers a fairly solid matchup spread all around. However, its power level is definitely going to be in question with the loss of Path to the Peak. Due to the versatile Lost Zone engine and 4 viable attacks between Giratina V and V-Star, this deck has answers to just about everything and will have a fighting chance in any game. Lost Zone Giratina potentially has an even better matchup against Charizard now with Iron Leaves EX and Prime Catcher from Temporal Forces. However, Chien Pao and Lugia are both poor matchups, which are fairly popular. Compared to Lost Zone Tina, Lost Zone Box has better matchups against Lugia and Chien Pao, but worse matchups against Charizard, Stall, and Control. This archetype is more volatile than something like Lost Zone Giratina, since Lost Zone Box has a variety of attackers and misses out on Giratina V's Abyss Seeking. These two archetypes are very close in power level and overall matchup spread, as well as popularity, with Lost Zone Box only being a fraction of a percent more popular than Lost Zone Giratina in online tournaments as of March 30th. I personally favor Lost Zone Box over Lost Zone Giratina at the moment due to more techs and adaptability in matchups, as well as Lost Zone Giratina's weak matchups to Lugia and Chien Pao, which are poised to be very popular. Lugia VSTAR won the first Post-rotation Champions League and has been riding that hype into EUIC. This deck is simple and strong, so I expect it to be a popular choice at least for early Western events in this format. Chinchino is one of the strongest attackers available right now due to the energy acceleration of Archeops, so this is potentially the strongest Lugia has been since losing Aurora Energy and the amazing rare attackers back in the last rotation. Lugia has an awful matchup against a new Future Hands deck, which is essentially replacing Peony Miraidon in the meta, so that deck's popularity might chase Lugia away. Chien Pao probably deserves to be ahead of our number 2 deck, but has been beaten out by online popularity, likely due to our number 2 deck Future Hands including several new cards. Chien Pao Baxcalibur is potentially better than ever in this new format. Path to the Peak rotated, so stadium cards are at an all-time low, freeing up space in the deck for more supporters. Cypher Maniac's Codebreaking would be the new best card for this deck, but even better than that is Prime Catcher, which is spiking this deck's power level. This deck can be pretty volatile, but if you max out on consistency cards and optimize your sequencing, this deck isn't that much less reliable than the others. Now on to Future Hands, which is the highest ranking brand new deck in today's video. Iron Hands EX might not be new, but it's the new cards that make this deck possible. Miraidon's Peak Acceleration attack is top notch for early damage and energy acceleration. The damage gets better thanks to Iron Crown EX, which is also going to buff Iron Hands EX's attacks high enough that it can hold the deck up as the main attacker. The Future Hands variant was mostly a reaction to Lugia winning the Champions League and a semi-optimized Future Hands list catching some of the spotlight in top 16. I say this because in my opinion Future Hands can only stay so popular if there are enough Lugias around. Otherwise, Future Hands matchup spread can get worse as Lugia players turn to Charizard, which is the worst matchup for Future Hands. And finally, we reach the proclaimed best deck in format, Charizard EX. Charizard EX is incredibly powerful on every account. High HP, great ability, high damage output, and even its typing has been advantageous. Charizard has been paired with either Pidgeot EX or B-Barrel, but all signs point to Pidgeot EX being the stronger variant. Charizard Pidgeot is the number 1 deck in terms of popularity and strength, so you should either play this deck or have a good plan on how to beat it. Charizard's worst matchups are Stall and Control decks, but it's also unfavored against Lost Zone Giratina and Chien Pao. Despite having a humble matchup spread, the consistency and power level of this archetype keeps it on top. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon TCG content, and check out ways to support my channel in the description down below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.